Welcome back to space. The very emptiness. Okay, I'm not going to joke around with you. Today, I'm going to be showing you a custom space fighter that I have been working on all night. It is the morning now, and I kind of lost track of time, I'm going to be completely honest. But here, I have this sort of like swarm fighter here. So this is the SD, or Swarm Drone, 445K Rapture Swarm fighter. So this thing has a multitude of nifty little features on it. I'll show those off in a second. So as you can see, it has a nice 8-pointed star sort of look to it, which I really like. And you're like, oh, the guns are facing backwards, pal. Like, what's that about? They fold forward into this like forward firing position, and I don't know. I thought this was a really cool design, so I just kept it. I also feel like I could have done better with the decals on the back, but you know what? I feel like it's like it shouldn't have to have a lot of, you know, detail to it. If I want to add more detail to it, I'll do that later. But yeah, I had to add these lines on each of the energy dispersal panels. At least that's what I'm gonna call those. I'll break down the lore of this thing, or the specs of it, in a second, in case you're curious about that. But yeah, this thing is, yeah, I just kept getting confused where the top was and where the bottom was, because if you can tell, since it's essentially TIE Fighter scale, I think it's actually smaller than my TIE Interceptor that I made. And yeah, so let me break down the specs for you. So the lab flasks on the front, you're like, oh, those might be just like placeholders for, like, you know, whatever the blasters might be, just because you put them there. I decided, nah, the specs of this thing would be different. So those are actually small sensors that detect things in front, and those will guide the laser things, and they point that at the actual target. So yeah, those are sensors, I guess. That's my lore behind it. Go get your own lore. Jeez. Man, only if I was able to understand FNAF lore these days. Without, honestly, any lore in FNAF beyond, like, I think, like, Security Breach, I don't really care about. Like, honestly, just I don't care about the books. In my opinion, the books don't count, even though they've been determined nowadays to very much count. But yeah, it has the non-overheat sort of systems, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So as you can see on each of the gun mounts, I have these little copperish colored things, and those are added like heat dispersers, or like that absorb like temperature and keep everything nice and cool. So yeah, that's what that does, I guess. I guess, man. Then of course we have the 4 larger panels, these more jagged looking ones, and those are, so whenever an enemy fires at you, I've determined that those would absorb those hits and convert whatever heat from that incoming round would put onto the thing, and that would turn it into, like, additional energy for the fighter and stuff. Which, this isn't the only version I've made. I've actually made another variant of this thing. So, yeah, I'll get to that in a little bit. I'm trying to focus on shooting these guys down. Which, very easy. Oh, right. I've also, in my opinion, the more accurate viewpoint for this thing would be this view. Because, I don't know, I thought it'd be cool, like, since this is Swarm Fighter, like, just imagine, like, a bunch of microscopic nanobots, like, following along behind this thing that, like, you know, like, give it a view for its, like, additional, like, sensor stuff, or whatever, giving it a wider view to have, like, a better, like, view of the battlefield, or, like, the space battle. I don't know. that's my reasoning behind it. Though yeah, I really love, this is by far my favorite. Though I might make a variant that just has these facing forward, maybe a shielded version. I don't think a, like, fully shielded version will be entirely possible, just because of how compact it is. I'd have to sacrifice a ton of speed. And this thing is about as fast as my generic TIE Fighter, so I think the only advantage it has over the TIE Fighter is... Actually, no. It has a few advantages. In atmospheric speed, it also has, of course, durability due to all the paneling that surrounds the cockpit, so you don't really have to worry about getting pilot sniped, of course. I mean, nobody likes getting pilot sniped, let's face it. Then, so we have firepower, survivability, and speed is, it could be better, but, you know. I actually turned down the quantum rudders for this thing by like 0.5 just to, you know, just to give it that extra bit of speed. Because otherwise it would go like 40 kilometers per hour slower. Actually, no, like 60. And I think I might lower it even more. Or at least try to add more thrusters, because I don't think it's fast enough. I feel like this thing should be going at least 580 with its current strength settings. Okay, you're done. You're done. Well, that was easy. Though yeah, this thing was a lot of fun to work on. Not to mention, I love these large mechanical hinges. They tie this thing so well together. They're versatile for pretty much any build, honestly. Okay. We're firing because we're never gonna overheat the guns. Oh, I should have given this thing a burst fire mode. That would have been sick. Just to have them fire all at once. But then again, I would have to clear out space inside this already cramped starship just to attempt to try and, you know, get it to function how I want it to. And if I want to add more speed, I've gotta, you know, I've gotta add a lot more, or I gotta rearrange a lot of stuff. Now let me show you the second variant. This is the SD Swarm Drone 445H, which is the heavy swarm drone. Now this thing is the same concept, except it has this big bulky cannon on the bottom of it. So yeah, it fires the cannon, and it also has the same fold forward. The inspiration behind this was actually behind both of these were the Sentinel drones from No Man's Sky, which if you haven't played that game, I highly recommend it. It is an absolutely amazing space game. And, yeah. Honestly, that's probably my favorite game to do base building in. Like, to me, like, I feel like originally it would have been, like, Minecraft or something, but, I feel like I've played it for so long that, like, it's kind of lost the nostalgia and prestige that it once had, but, that's just me. That's just me not liking the direction they went with, how they did updates, but we're not talking about Minecraft, we're talking about this thing. There's no real lore behind this thing other than the cannon has a battery life to it, so if you see the red things inside, it would have a certain amount of charges, then it would be depleted, then, you know, I'd assume the cannon would be able to be, like, detached from the actual, like, ship itself, so, you know, it would be something like that. Weird, pal. It also has a slower fire rate because, you know, I removed most of the things. So I'm not sure what other variants of this I can do other than the ones that I mentioned. So, wait, did I even mention that? did I mention what Oh, right, I was talking about shielded one. Like, the shielded wouldn't really be possible. There's a rocket launching one that I kind of want to do for this, or maybe like some sort of heavy bomber. Come here. Come here, pal. I want to get it. Can I get a cannon? Come on, let me get a cannon kill. If I get a cannon kill in space, you have to subscribe. Okay. Ow. Okay, looks like you have to actually unsubscribe after that. Yeah, he kind of like dodges out of the way after the fact, so I don't think it's really possible. Yeah, just get out of here, pal. Subscribe anyway if you really want to. I won't tell you what to do though. Yeah, this one, I don't have to worry about not knowing which way is up because, you know, it's very much a discernible sort of shape, so, you know, though I'm not sure if I'm a fan of, you know what, actually no, I'm a fan of both of the models, but I prefer the fighter variant a lot more. The cannon doesn't really do much damage to those anti-airs, which I don't understand why it doesn't do that much damage, even though it's an, like, explosive thing. So, I'm not even gonna bother trying to use that, so, yeah. So, even, if you look at the, I'm not sure how obvious it is, but let me go back to the thing. So, if we look at the frontal, like, glass bit, there's a glass bit on the front, so if you look at it at a different angle, it, like, see how, like, it was just to add depth. It was literally just to add depth. Though I might change that to, like, an eyepiece, just so it looks like it's a bit more interesting. I feel like it being just a square is just a little too flat. Also, maybe add something here. I'll do that. Though yeah, I'd imagine these swarm fighters would be deployed from like deployed like any other swarm fighter from like one massive like mothership sort of thing, then like in like the thousands. So I'd imagine these things would be stored along like a huge ship or something, and would be stored in like racks of like 12, then they would all be launched like, kind of like broadsides, if you, like in a large broadside of like, you know, I don't know, that's just me. I'm just talking, I'm just ranting about the thing I just made, and you know what, I like the things I just made. By far my favorite space fighters. So I do kind of want to make I kind of want to do another color scheme for the fighter. I'll show that after I do it, but I actually have a cool paint scheme in mind for it. Though, yeah, that pretty much does it for the showcase. Yeah, hope you enjoyed. If you cared about, if you liked the lore behind it or the specs that I gave it, or anything you feel like you would want detail on about this thing and how I would see this, yeah, drop a comment or subscribe even. That'd be pretty cool. No, you don't have to do that. you actually don't have to. Anyway, that just about, why is it always default to the weird bright red color? Anyway, that's about it for me in this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.